Lacey and I haven't seen this, but we'll do once again cage
This
match.
one's blind. Yeah, this is a blind cage match.
Blind cage match. We're doing it. All right. So we're gonna see Dave Ramsey.
Commentary. We'll see. We'll see if I know what he's gonna say.
All right. Cage match time.
Robin's in Los Angeles. Hey, Robin, how are you?
Oh, good, Dave. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure. What's up?
Well, I sold a large house and bought a smaller house. And in the process of doing that, I talked to my CPA and also my financial planner about the best way to handle the dollars that were coming in from a larger house. And they said, well, you're obviously going to have enough to pay off the smaller house if that's what you want to do. But because you're getting a good return on your invested portfolio, maybe what you should do is put the money in the portfolio, continue to service the mortgage, and have a few percent left over after that. And they both thought that was a good idea. It sounds good on paper, but I want to do things.
But something's bothering you about it.
Well, I just want to do things.
Okay.
We have the money, and we have more money than to pay off the mortgage. That's not a problem.
So let me ask you this: if the house was paid for,
Yeah.
and you met with your financial planner, and he said, "I want you to go get a mortgage so that you can invest more with me, so you can make the spread," would you do that?
No.
What's the difference?
All right. So what's the difference? What's the difference? What's the risk, Grace? What's his move? What's he gonna do? What's Dave gonna do? So the guy bought a smaller house. He's got the excess cash from the sale of the bigger house, right? I guess we're ignoring tax. I don't know what the taxes are. Maybe he got away with it.
Well, we're not pretend that we know that. We'll set that aside for the moment because we don't know.
His financial planner is saying, well, you could pay off the house, or you could probably do better if you invest. What's Dave going to do?
We have two options here on the table. What will Dave do? Okay, so Dave is going to tell him, obviously, that he should pay off the house.
Probably.
And then he is probably going to say, once you pay off the house, that you're going to take the equivalent to the mortgage payment. You're going to invest that every month in good growth stock mutual funds.
Mm-hmm. Well, but
which would be his thing.
Remember now, there's no mortgage payment because this is excess money.
What he will say is
the mortgage payment on the new house, right?
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
The mortgage payment on the new smaller house,
right?
Because that's what he would otherwise be on the hook for. So Dave will tell him to take what that amount is monthly and invest that.
Okay.
So that's going to be the basic advice. And where this relates to risk, because we're talking risk today, is that Dave is going to suggest that there, I don't know if he'll say it directly, but his idea will be that there is less risk, in his opinion, in paying off the house.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That'll be his perception. However, I would be surprised. I mean, he might make a comment about risk, but I don't know if he'll go into his perception of risk. But I'm telling you, that's how I was looking at it.
Okay, so his argument here now is, well, if it was the mortgage broker saying turn around and put it in the mortgage, would you trust him? Right, because he's right. The financial advisor stands to make more money if he invests the money, but it's really not that much more money when you break it down. I'm just there's a financial planner like that is making probably 1% a year on the assets under management. So if it's $100,000, it's an extra $1,000 a year to the financial planner. It's not a big boost. I'm just saying. So
arguably, you do that enough times with enough people, and
sure.
I mean that will stack up.
Right. Which is probably what the financial planner is just saying. You can do it either way. I don't care.
Right.
But he's going to make it sound sinister. I'm sure.
Oh. What's the difference? What's the difference?
I guess there is no difference.
There's not. And so you would pay off this mortgage today. You know why? Because when I ask you that in reverse, rather than the way you're asking me about it, in other words, you're asking like the house is paid off, would you go borrow on it, or should you pay it off? It's the same math exactly. But when I ask it in reverse, it causes you to think not only with your mind where you do math, but with your heart where you do risk. Your planner and your CPA are using a naive, primitive financial formula that is inaccurate because it leaves out risk.
Primitive. Yeah.
Risk.
So he did say something about risk. Yeah.
It's calculated.
We haven't gotten to what his plan for the guy is yet, so we don't know if I'm 100% winged here at the moment. But it was right that he kind of vaguely mentioned the risk thing.
It's calculated in your heart, Lacey. In your heart, deep in the cockles, of your heart, deep down in that.
I think that makes a lot of sense to me, actually, because there's some weird buttons getting pushed in my heart sometimes, and like weird mathy things start happening. So I might have a financial calculator for a heart.
There you go. I do think it's funny that he's saying the CPA is not calculating risk because he's an accountant. That's not his problem. But the financial advisor is definitely calculating what the risk is, right? And it's when he says the math is the same both ways. It's not, but. Let's see what he finishes up with here. But yeah.
We got to see if I'm in the win category here.
Well, because a minute ago he was saying, he was told not to calculate risk. And then he's saying, well, you calculate risk with beta, but he doesn't know what beta really does. I don't know where he's going. And now he's calculating risk with his heart. I just feel it, right? I feel it in my balls. That's how I know it's risky.
We are not calculating risk in your body parts.
As the chicken said, I felt it in my nuggets.
We're probably using Dave's heart than your man parts.
Yeah. Well.
And you and I, having common sense, know that their mortgages, even though it's a small mortgage, has a certain amount of risk associated with it, and they have not mathematically adjusted for that risk. And so I'm of the opinion that the borrower is slave to the lender 100% of the time.
And he hung up. Okay.
Part of the time, and I've done detailed research here at Ramsey Solutions, and we found that 100% of the foreclosures occur on a home with a mortgage. There's risk associated with it.
I got nothing to that.
100% of foreclosures happen on a home with a mortgage. You know why, Lacey? It's because you can't foreclose on a home without a mortgage. If you own the home outright, you're not foreclosing. How do you foreclose? You don't know anything.
Foreclosure is conducted by the entity holding the loan. If there's no loan, there's no foreclosure. Yeah, I mean,
Lacey, like Dave, I'm a very scientific guy, and I've done a lot of research. And you know what I've determined? 100% of gun deaths involve a firearm. Mm-hmm.
You learned it here first, kids.
100% of drowning deaths involve liquid.
Are we gonna see his last little bit here?
We could do it, yeah.
He's just telling this guy what to do, because he's kind of gone on these sort of kind of interesting tangents to listen to, but he's gone on these tangents and not actually finished.
No, I know, but it's just so stupid. I mean,
yes. And so I don't borrow money to invest. And not paying off debt in order to keep investments is exactly the same equation. So I disagree passionately with the primitive, naive, horrible financial formula that your financial planner and CPA are using. I would pay off this mortgage in 20 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to put this in the win column. He kind of, cut himself off almost before finishing giving the guy the answer. So I don't think he did a great job of finishing his own answer. The only part he didn't do is he didn't tack on the, and then go and invest the difference, but...
Well, no. And I did the calculation real quick. So, had the guy paid off the loan, I figured a 15-year mortgage. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he. Well, that's what Dave would have told him to get it.
Yeah. Well, I figured 15 years. I gave him 5%. I figured, okay, if he paid off the loan, he'd have saved $45,000 in interest payments, and then he'd have been able to have saved with I did 10% return rate, $306,000. So interest plus what he saved, he'd be at $351,000. Okay, in the positive. If he'd have taken, I figured $100,000 just to keep it simple. To start with, if he takes the $100,000 and he just invests it at 10% over 15 years, he'd have made $418,000. So he'd have been $67,000 in the positive. So let's look at what kind of risk are we talking about here? Are we talking about opportunity cost? Because his best foregone option would have been to invest it at 418 minus his current chosen option of paying off the house, where he'd only be 351. So he's taken an opportunity cost risk of $67,000. Right? Now, are there other risks that are factored into this? Well, we can go back to the beginning. Creditor default risk. Is he really at risk of defaulting on the house? Well, no, not really. Because let's say he can't pay the money all of a sudden, he still has the $100,000 invested. He can take that out and pay it. So he's not really at any creditor default risk. Country risk, business risk, foreign exchange, interest rate risk. No, not really. It's a mortgage. They're backed by the federal government. Political risk. No, not really. Counterparty risk. Nope. The bank's not going to renege on the contract. With liquidity risk. No. So I'm not sure what risk he's taking by just paying the mortgage monthly, as opposed to paying it off all at once. I'm not sure what risk he's taking there. The risk seems to be the opportunity cost risk of not investing the money, because he's lost all that extra money. Now you got to factor this in. If we're talking about a guy who's retiring in the next 10 to 15, 20 years, he's lost all of that money that could save him in retirement or be a big benefit in retirement. Right? So he's giving up a lot. So he's got a lot of opportunity cost risk. What's the risk of, so if he pays off the house though, he doesn't have that money anymore. And let's say the house doesn't grow in value, or it goes down in value. And let's say he has to go underwater in the house and sell it at a loss. There's risk there. The risk of investing it is the market could go down and he could lose money. But as we've seen from earlier with the random walk scenario, 15 years, the odds the market's going to go down for 15 years are almost zero. I mean, it's very rare. Not since the Great Depression. And even that wasn't 15 years. So would Dave sit there and go, well, they're not calculating risk? Well, it's like, Dave, what's the risk they're not calculating? I don't see it. Right. The thing I love about Dave is he's telling the guy what to do, and he's telling him it's not the smart move when it is the smart move. Right? And he has no consideration for the actual risk. So what if it was somebody who wanted to make the smart move and didn't care that much about the debt and listened to Dave? Well, they would have just given up $67,000 of growth. And they'd have put themselves in a position where they had less reserve cash in case they had an emergency. So they'd have put themselves at even more risk. Not just opportunity cost, but lack of liquidity risk.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an area to be careful, though, when you're going to be paying things off, that you don't put yourself in that particular risk.
Yeah. So I'm still the champ. Because I covered the risk. Woo!
have a thing.
Duncan.